Hey all, I hope you're doing fine. This is my first impression video on Sony HT-A9 M2. I had the previous version of this, Sony HT-A9, and this is a quick comparison and my thoughts on it, why I decided to do the upgrade. Hope you enjoy. So there are a lot of videos done on this Sony's new surround sound, virtual surround sound model. And I'm not going to in depth of its features and all the praise about it. I'm going to compare this one with the previous model, and I'm going to compare this one with my dedicated stereo setup, and if they can hold up to the music playback in stereo mode. And there are some few things that I would like to address, which Sony could have done better. So yeah, let's go into it. So first of all, comparing this model to the previous one, I think the most improvement I see on the stability, network stability on this setup versus comparing to the previous one, because the previous one was really pain when one or two speakers drops during a movie or listening to music, and it's something, it's cracks, like it comes and goes, right? So it will ruin the pleasure of watching a movie or listening to some music on it. And the sound wise, these speakers, I was totally amazed how for the format and the design of it, it is rather flat compared to the other round model of the previous one, and it has a lot of depth to the music, and it has, I think, I cannot describe how the sound wise in proper terms, but it has more depth and more range to the music. And combine this with the Sony's subwoofer, the larger model I have, I think that is SW5, if I'm not mistaken. I had with that same subwoofer with the previous model, and I'm lucky that Sony intended to keep and make it compatible with the newer model as well, because subwoofer is really great. It has really good punch to it. So this setup works very well sound wise in comparing to the previous model. And the sound is also very mid-heavy and also well balanced. I did not tweak all the possible sort of like settings. I just took the system out 2 days ago, set it up, standard setup, and I did the immersive voice, turn it on, and the voice option, I activated it, so the voice is more upfront, right? So yeah, as I said, very balanced system, very good on music as well as movies, and no sound drops. That's the main thing, right? And the design, I love the design, and I've come back to the 2-3 points that I think that Sony could have done a little bit better. I'll come to that. So stereo playback, I'm not an audiophile, but I love listening to music on I love listening to music. So because of that, I have my dedicated stereo setup. I have made a full video on my stereo setup. Now name amplifier and the power supply for the name amplifier and the code DAC, right? And my music source is the same. I listen to Apple Music and lossless, right? So when I compare the stereo setup to Sony HD A9, and it was kind of surprising, because previous model I could immediately say the difference between when I listen to music on on the stereo setup versus the HT-A9. But the new one, it's very hard to guess. I mean, I was surprised because of the size of the speakers, what it delivers, and the range that it covers. But still, I must tell you, Q acoustic speakers, they have a lot more range and depth to the music, and the music imaging is also better because the 360 virtualized music setup scenario which Sony does has some its own flair to it. Like, it won't play the music as it was been recorded. It do some AI stuff and bring voice forward, and the instruments, the distribution is also a little bit different when I listen to music on Sony speakers as well, in comparison to the Q acoustics, right? And that's also a preference. Like, if you have some guests, if we sit in the dining table and listen to music in the background, it doesn't make any difference if you listen to the music in the stereo setup or Sony HD A9 M2s, because if you do a dedicated music listening by sitting on the couch, and then you would hear the difference. So that's one thing you have to keep note. So it's still, I'm glad in a way that it does not compete as a dedicated stereo setup, because otherwise you wouldn't have any stereo setup. You wouldn't need any stereo setup. So most people, the Sony HD A9 M2 would do very well if you combine it with the proper subwoofer, right? So that's something to keep in mind. I was really amazed of its performance. And the rear speakers, as you know, here in Europe, apartments, the space behind the couch is a luxury. So I have a very tight space. It's, width between these two is somewhere around 3 meters. And as you can see, the space behind the couch is none. So what I would think of doing is just turn the rear speakers a little bit towards the listening position by putting a little bit space back a bit and mount it on the wall so that it will tilt a little bit towards the couch. But other than that, I don't have any more sort of like possibilities to mount it, right? So I have purposely kept it a little bit higher because due to the sound reflection, because if I mount it a little bit lower, then if it bounces back the overhead sound, I also thought of leaving a little bit space if you sit on the couch. It's not right behind your ears, so that's one of the reasons. But anyway, long story short, I have mounted like this. It does basically no space between the couch and the speakers. It does its job very well after you calibrate it with the setup procedure. And there's one more thing I would like to mention is that now with HT-A9 and the new model, you have an option to connect there's a center speaker out from the unit to the compatible Sony Bravia TVs, and to get the center channel out of the TV, right? So what I found out was HT-A9, the previous model, the sound characteristic of the TV is not matching with the speakers. So you have some sort of a disconnect between the previous HT-A9 and the Sony TV if you use that option. So in my case, I did not use that option with my previous model, but with new one, I have the feeling it has more harmony, like the characteristic of the speakers of the TV as a central channel, and the surround speakers are purely through the HT-A9 M2s are more harmonized when compared to the previous one. I did not turn off that option when I listen to stereo, when I compare the stereo playback with this one to my stereo setup, but still it does not distort the sound quality of the playback. So that is something that you need to keep in mind. The older Sony TVs does not have that option, but the TVs that are compatible, the newer models, it's something to try out. It harmonizes very well. 2-3 caveats. Sony could have come up with a better way to sort of like plug the or run through the cable. As you can see, now these are not the original cables. Original cables are angle plugs, so it will hide this part that's showing out. These are a little bit more longer cables I bought from Amazon. But say supposing if I put the angle cable, then it will hide this cable and it will come down in the middle, right? So, but still, Sony could have found a way to sort of like a little bit more hide the cable, not directly coming down from the speakers, but that may vary on your the place you mount those speakers. And the wall mounting brackets, they have used the stands that if you were to place the speakers on a desktop, they use the same stand to mount, do the wall mount. But I think Sony could have done a better job with that. So as you can see, if you see it from an angle, the mount is visible. And I think it would have been really nice that if you wouldn't see that, if the Sony left a little bit space between the speaker and the wall, then it gives the feeling of like, you know, the speaker is floating, like it's not, the brackets are not visible, and some visual aspect for it, if I put it that way. Yeah, so all in all, I'm really glad that I did this upgrade, and I did purchase this Sony HD A9 M2. And after listening to these speakers for about 2-3 months time, I will come up with my long-term review on this. And in the meantime, if you have any questions, and if you in the verge of deciding whether to buy these or not, you can write me your comments in the comment section, and we're trying to answer them as much as possible. But in the current point of time, I would definitely recommend these speakers. A big thumbs up, because it is a huge leap forward, the correct direction in comparison to the previous model of Sony. And keep your stereo setup. Don't get rid of it yet, because it has its own merit to it. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and talk to you next time. Bye bye.